Hey, Austin Netzley here, author, investor, and founder of 2X. For the past 2 years, we've been working with 6- and 7-figure business owners all across the world to help them get free from the day-to-day operations so they can scale their income and business faster than ever before. And now we're showing you the real-life stories, the real-life principles of what matters as you try to scale, as we walk a handful of entrepreneurs through the journey to go from 6 to 7 figures. Come, check it out. Hey, what's up, guys? Austin Netzley here with one of my favorite people in the world, Mr. Chandler Bolt, great entrepreneur here to show you how to scale your 6- or 7-figure business. Chandler went from 0 to 1.1 million, up to 2 million, then up to 4 million, then almost to $7 million and rising fast. Now headed towards that 8-figure mark, over 10 million bucks. So I want to break down a little bit about your story, Chandler, and how you got there so freaking fast. But first of all, how old are you? And then talk about your business and what you do.
Yeah, so my name's Chandler Bolt. I'm 26 years old.
26 years old. Did you hear that? $7 million and counting? Sorry.
Yeah, so I run a company called Self-Publishing School. We're an online education company. We help people write and publish books and use those books to grow their business. So as Austin kind of mentioned, we've been going for a few years now, been scaling, growing, building out the team, and helping a lot of people change lives through the power of books.
So let's talk about from 0 to 1. That's a huge leap. Most people, 4% of businesses actually even get across that $1 million mark. You did it in the first year. What would you say are 1 or 2 key levers that you really pulled to just like come out of the gate swinging?
Yeah, so a couple levers, and I mean, I think any business needs to have 2 things. Number 1, you need to have a product that solves a real problem that people have. And then number 2, you need to be really, really, really good at marketing and selling that product. And it's like almost, I don't want to say those are the only 2 skill sets that matter, but pretty much, I mean, those are like 80% of the skill sets that matter. And I see a lot of people, they'll nail one or the other, right? They'll be really good at sales and marketing, and then they have a crappy product, or they're solving a problem that no one cares about. Or they have a really, really great product and they get squeamish about marketing. They're scared to talk about it. They don't want to market it. They don't want to sell it. So I think we nailed both of those things. And then we just got really, really, really serious about sales and marketing. We were talking to our customers in the trenches and actively solving their problems. And then we did a summit, which kind of doubled our business in the span of 1 month. But really all that was just a customer acquisition vehicle and channel to expedite what was already working, because we'd already got our first $100,000 or $200,000 in sales, and we just kept building from that.
Yeah, so let's go back to when you started just a few years ago in your early 20s, and you look at, hey, I want to eventually build a $7 million plus dollar business. What would you tell yourself then about getting there much faster? So instead of 4 or 5 years, how could you get there in 3 years, let's say?
Oh my gosh, it's probably some of what I was just talking about is really focus on sales and marketing, because I screwed that up in the beginning and I just wanted everyone to like me.
How much of your time do you think should go towards sales and marketing? And how much of your time is going towards that now?
I mean, I think in the early days, 60, 70% of your time. I mean, I would say right now I've swung too far, where I'm actually trying to shift back the other way and focus more on the product, on our customers, putting our customers at the front of the business. But I would say for 90, 95% of people, they don't focus enough time on sales and marketing. And I love this, the Keith Cunninghamism, which is just like, there's only 2 things that matter in your business. You should only be doing 1 of 2 things, either getting new customers or making your customers happier.
Keeping the customers
you
got.
Exactly. So it's like, if you're not doing 1 of those 2 things, what are you doing? And a lot of people, they want to do a logo, they want to have a website, they get a photo shoot, they do all these stupid things that don't matter. And really it's hand-to-hand combat. I love how much Drift talks about this, about just doing hand-to-hand combat and really making sure that you're talking to your customers, you're solving their problems, and you're focusing on sales and marketing.
So let's talk about your team. How many people did you have in that first year? How many people do you have now? And we'll talk about that evolution.
Yeah, so right now I think we're at 22, 23 full-time employees. We've got a handful of contractors. So it's 30 plus people when you count contractors and all that stuff. And I would say that I screwed a lot up when it came to a team. So my disclaimer around team is that a lot of people get it's kind of a measuring stick for entrepreneurs where they get hung up on the number of people. Because when you're at a party with other entrepreneurs or whatever, it's like, oh, how many people you got on your team, right? So, and really what they want to know is how much money are you making? But they don't have the guts to ask that. So they just say, how many people you got on your team? And so I, of course, wanted to seem like a big deal. So I just started hiring people like crazy. And then I realized, every person that I hire, this is just more revenue that we have to make, and it's actually a lot of times less money that I'm making, more complication, all that stuff. So I'd say I hired too much too soon. Then we had to cut the team in half, and that came from systems, from playbooks, all that stuff. We were able to get the same or better results with less people by doing that, and so we cut back down. But really it's, all right, are your people driving results for your customers or helping you get new customers? Again, it's the same filter, right? So that's kind of what the teams look like.
So you mentioned one of those magic words, which is systems.
Yes.
What is a system to you, and how has that helped you build SPS in the way that you have?
Oh man, you're gonna get me excited, and this is gonna this could take a while. But this is what I was gonna answer to your question earlier about what are the couple things that I would go back and say to myself. It would be marketing and sales and systems.
Systems,
Because I feel like I wasted the first 18 months, 2 years of just like, I felt like through heroic effort that I could just, arm wrestle results into my business, and it was just the classic thing that probably everyone says is just like, oh no, this is just so unique to me. And I'm just so special that you can't systematize this, you can't bottle this up. I'm just special. This can't be systematized. And so I messed a lot of stuff up, and that really took, the conversation that we've had, reading E-Myth, reading Work the System, stuff like that, to really sink in that systems are important. And as far as to answer your question, what systems mean to me is it's a playbook. So it's SOPs, it's systems, references, and templates that we can use to run the business, a playbook of plays, and building that out, and then more importantly, getting team buy-in and now having the team build that out. I told you there was, and I would never use this as a emphasis for rolling out a playbook, because you're not going to get adoption if you do. But we were able to trim the team by like 3, 4, 5 people in the span of 6 to 9 months. And we were growing revenue because there was so much inefficiency prior to the playbook.
That's huge.
So we really use that as a selling point. Not that we're going to trim staff, because we haven't since then, but just this is the fastest way to get promoted. This is the fastest way to not have to do things that you don't like doing in your role, all those things.
It's creating a culture of systems, like 100%. Just so crucial. So let's talk about, we talked a little bit about 0 to 1. What about 1 to 7? What were like the key levers that really allowed, and we've touched on them indirectly, but if you could say, hey, if you're trying to get from 1 or 2 million up to 7 or 10 million, like what does that look like as fast as possible?
So I think 0 to 1 is really testing and ironing out product
market fit. Exactly.
And so that was what that was, is figuring out what's our offer, what's our price point, who's our target customer, all those things. And then once you get past $1 million, I'm not going to say that you have product market fit, but you're definitely a lot closer. And in a lot of cases, you have a good idea of it. And so since then, it's just been stacking customer acquisition channels. So then it becomes more like, I've got, I'm looking at it as an investor, right? So it's like, all right, I've got a proven model. Now how do I, diversify my investments, or, put money in the customer acquisition channels that are going to yield the best returns, the lowest cost to acquire a customer, the best scalability, stuff like that. So it's kind of moved from, all right, we have a proven process, funnel, all that stuff. Now let's actually expand out to different customer acquisition channels.
All right, so having this investing mentality, what you need to see your business as is a form of systems, but also numbers. Can you talk about our love for numbers? We were talking about this last night and this morning, of how much the numbers matters you're trying to scale. Talk a little bit about like the numbers from an entrepreneur's perspective, specifically as you look to scale a really, really highly successful, profitable business.
Oh, if you don't know your numbers, you can't scale. At least you can't scale and actually make money and be profitable. And I think it's a Warren Buffett quote where he says, counting is the rules of the game, and if you don't know the rules, you can't win the game. And so you got to know the rules, and then you got to pay attention to the score. And the numbers are the scoreboard and how you're doing in so many different areas. So for me, I would say that the biggest mistake that I made was I took my eye off the ball, and this is probably like a lot of you watching this or listening to this, is, I was like, my job was to make it rain, and I had a business partner, or maybe in this case, it's an employee or whatever, It's like, all right, I'm going to bring in the money. You make sure that we keep it. But really what that meant is I'm going to come out here and just make a bunch of noise and not pay attention to any of the operations, any of the numbers. Well, guess what? When you're doing that, you can't make good decisions as a CEO. So I didn't realize it, but I was sabotaging our success of the business because I was just making poor strategic decisions because I didn't know the numbers. So when I bought out my business partner, that was one of the first changes that I made, and I had to take ownership over this. Is we were bleeding cash, we weren't as profitable as we could be, and we were doing what I call chasing the revenue rabbit. So we were chasing revenue, and when you chase the revenue rabbit, you just get tired, and you run out of energy, and you're not making any money. So it feels good, it looks good to have that revenue top line growing, but the bottom line wasn't growing, which, I mean, that's why you're in business, right? So I just changed the culture around that internally, and now we look at the numbers all the time. I have weekly finance meetings, we're digging into P&Ls, all those things, and it seems like something that's tedious and that's a waste of time, but it's actually, in my opinion, some of the best time that you can spend.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's transition to where it starts, which is the mindset. And you, young dude, you've got it figured out, it seems. You've got a $7+ million business and growing fast. Do you deal with mindset issues, or are you just invincible?
If people say they don't deal with mindset issues, then they have a mindset issue that they're not aware about their mindset issues.
Right.
So, I mean, I think all the time. I mean, we all sabotage our success. We all come into worthiness issues, or who am I to do this, and things like that. And I think the biggest, just to speak on that, like the biggest thing that I would recommend for folks, and I get super fired up about this, is your self-talk. And I've got this video on my YouTube channel about how you need to watch your language, and it's not what most people would think, because I think that the things that we say out loud daily inform our subconscious, and that forms our conscious action. So if I say, oh, I'm just not much of a business person. Oh, I don't like the numbers. I'm not good at numbers. I'm not good at systems. I'm not good at sales. I'm not good at marketing. I don't like the sales. I don't like the marketing. Any of those things. We're speaking that into existence. And so one of the first things I do with people on my team, and then I've had to do this for people with myself, or for myself, is I'll just really grill into anytime I hear that negative self-talk. We have these two phrases: it's used to and yet. And so used to is I used to be bad at systems. I used to be bad at numbers. And yet is just kind of a way to positively reframe it, where I'm not good at systems yet. Right? So it's just, it seems like a super small difference, but I found that from a mindset perspective, if I change my language in those phrases, it goes from current identity Chandler to past identity Chandler. And when my subconscious views it as past identity Chandler, well, then now that's no longer who I am. So it's no longer in line with my future actions. So like one example for me is, as part of my talk, I have kind of this shtick of like C-level English student, college dropout, all this stuff. So as part of my talk, I say, yeah, I'm a really crappy writer and I suck at it. And then one day I realized, I'm like, oh, I've audited this out of the rest of my life, but this talk, because it's like part of my hero's journey story, I'm like, okay, well, what if I just change that language to be, I used to be bad at writing. So now it can still be a meaningful part of my story, but it's not impeding who I want to be and the skill sets that I want to develop. So in terms of mindset, I would say used to and yet, and really just auditing your language and eliminating any negative, especially verbal, self-talk about yourself.
That's huge. That's huge. I told myself that I was a master of systems literally years before I can now say that, hey, I'm pretty darn good at systems and other things like that. It takes a long time, and one thing that you need is habits. And you and I are aligned on this, that like discipline is our superpower. Talk about some of the key habits that have really developed you and that you'd recommend to everybody watching.
Oh gosh. Segueing off of what we just said, the biggest habit for me is my morning routine. That is, I mean, if I could only say one, and if there's only one thing that was a habit for me, that's my morning routine. I've got a video on this on my YouTube channel that breaks down exactly what it is. But one of the things that we have in common that ties both mindset to morning routine is affirmations and audible affirmations. So a big part for me is to conquer those mindset issues is I listen to affirmations every single morning. And so I pop out of bed, when I'm brushing my teeth and taking out my retainers, I'm listening to an affirmation from myself,
Yep.
and then I listen to one that my brother sent me. So it's like myself telling myself how awesome I am, and then my brother telling myself how awesome I am. So it's like the first and best way to start the day. And a lot of those statements in those affirmations are meant to reprogram subconscious beliefs.
100%.
But by far the morning routine, that's where I do reading, that's where I do meditation, that's where I do affirmations, that's where I do exercise, push-ups, stuff like that. And it's just, I know by the time 7:50 a.m. rolls around, I've done more than most people have done their whole day.
100%. 100%. We've talked about the numbers, we've talked about systems. It's a lot, Chandler. Where the heck do we start? Give people one action to start to take right now so they can start to get some of this momentum and this traction, like this explosive growth that you've seen.
Yeah, I would say from a one action on the personal side, and I'll give one action on the business side. So maybe it's
we call that 2X.
On the personal side, morning routine starting tomorrow. And that's just a non-negotiable, and I would say do that. And then on the business side, I would really challenge you to say which part is my blind spot? Is it systems or is it sales and marketing? And I want you to do one action for the next 4 days, 5 days, whatever the next calendar week looks like for you. Do one action daily and put that as part of what I would call prime time. We talk about this all the time. Prime time, morning time, immediate before you do anything else, spend an hour on that one thing. And I think that'd really be impactful. And obviously, these guys are world class when it comes to systems. So if you need, work with these guys if you get the opportunity, because there's just no one talking about this stuff from what I've seen in the way that you guys are talking about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Bro, appreciate you. Watch this guy's continued growth. Follow these things. Guys, there's a lot that was shared here. It sounds pretty complex, but if you just take it one step at a time, most importantly, start with the personal stuff, the mindset, the morning routine, it builds momentum. All right, so learn about systems, learn about team, learn to love your numbers, have that positive self-talk, and follow this guy's journey towards crazy, awesome growth. All right, there's some crazy things possible available to you. If you do this, we're here to help support. So I'll see you in the next video.